Good afternoon everybody and welcome back. Today I'm making beer and charcoal soap. I've had a number of people ask me about this, so I thought as I had to do some for a wholesale order, I'd do it on film for you so that you could see exactly what was going on, and I'm going to put the recipe in the files for you, so if you want to follow it exactly, feel free to do so. So as always, I've got everything semi-ready so that I don't have to be charging from one end of the room to the other. As always, gloves. Now, because we're working with beer today rather than water, it's very important that you get as much of the gas out of the beer as you can before you start. Therefore, this beer in here was poured very early this morning. I stirred it on and off all day, and it's quite cold in this room, so it's nicely chilled, and we're hoping that we've lost as much of the gas as is possible. When you're working with beer, you need to work very, very steadily. If you add all of your lye powder at once, I can guarantee it is going to volcano. It will come up over the sides, it will be splashing everywhere. Not only do you risk harm to yourself and all of your surfaces, but potentially you're going to lose all of the ingredients that you need. So when you're working with beer, the classic is slowly. Now, I'm only making a kilo of soap for this order, so I'm working with fairly low volumes today. So I'm just tearing my scales to 0, and I'm pouring in 336 too much 336 grams of the beer. Now, this is not all beer, it is 50% beer and 50% water. Okay, so what I did was I took a bottle of Bishop's Finger, which is made by our local brewery. I know that that bottle is 500 mils, so I've mixed into it a further 500 mils of water. So I started off with 1,000, and I can, as long as I use it tomorrow or later today, use the rest for something else. So because we're going to work very slowly with our lye, we need to measure it out into a separate jug as always, and then we can pour slowly. Now, I want 136 grams of lye. Somebody asked me the other day where I get my lye from. I'll find the lid in a second and I'll hold it up for you. There you go. This comes from Lynx Products. Now, this is obviously a 5 kilo tub because we use a lot. They do it, I believe, as small as a kilo. So obviously you can buy as much as you need to buy. So, as I said, very, very slowly adding our lye to our beer, just a little bit at a time, stirring it in, and then a little bit more, stirring it in. Now, although I'm choosing, because of the particular customer that I'm making this for, to use beer, this would work just as well in soap if you were using water. So if you don't want to use the beer, then obviously water will work. As always, when you're mixing lye, trying not to breathe in the fumes. They do make you cough and it's not very pleasant. You can wear a mask, and if you're at the early stages of your soap making career, I would definitely recommend that you wear a mask and goggles, especially for this part. Whenever I have students, I always make them wear goggles. They don't like it very much, and we get rid of them as soon as we can, but it just makes sure that they're safe. Okay, Now this is starting to heat up now, and this is when it's likely to misbehave, if it's going to. You can probably see the steam rising off it there. You'll see it's starting to be opaque now. Obviously the hotter it gets, the more likely it is to volcano, because there is sugar in beer. As we all know, it's the sugar that makes the alcohol. You will find some people tell you the only way to use beer is to boil the alcohol first, so that you're not using an alcoholic product, or indeed to freeze it and use it in the way that you would goat's milk. There's nothing wrong with either of those methods, it's just not something that I do. Anybody that hasn't realised yet, soap making is not for people that like to work in a hurry. It's a slow, gentle, therapeutic process. So there you go, that wasn't too bad. We got all of our lye in there and we didn't get any explosions or anything nasty. So, just out of interest, I'm going to get my thermometer and we'll see just how hot this currently is. So, for the benefit of you guys, that is currently 70 degrees in there. It's very hot and caustic. So we're just going to set him aside, out of the way, and we're going to start measuring out our oils. So, first of all, coconut oil. So again, I'm putting my saucepan on my scales, and because this is a tried and trusted recipe that I have done lots of times before, I know exactly how much I want of everything. So I'm taking 450 grams of this coconut oil, to which I am going to add 450 grams of olive oil. Now it's just a 2-oil soap because the beer is full of wonderful hops which will feed the skin anyway, and then we've got the charcoal in there that acts as a detox, which is great for the skin also. So, tare my scales again. I'm going to put in 450 of the olive oil. There we go. Oh, no. 450 of the olive oil. I'm going to put that on the ring to melt. Okay. Now remember, as always with soap making, in an ideal world, we want our lye water and our oils to be within 10 degrees of each other before we mix them together. Doesn't really matter whether it's at 100 or at 70, as long as we got a 10-degree variance and no more. Now today I'm working with 3 colours. So I've got titanium dioxide here. I don't know if you can see, lovely white colour. That's going to obviously lighten up our soap batter. And I'm going to be adding that to 2 parts of the batter. And then in this one here, I've got my charcoal mix. Now the reason we use charcoal when we're making soap and other skin products is because charcoal is a very clever thing. It's capable of absorbing up to 300 times its own weight. So can you imagine 300 times its own weight? How much oil and debris is that going to draw from your pores? It's a wonderful product, and that's why we want to use it today. And then I've got this really sexy radiant gold, just as a nice accent colour. The fragrance we're going to be using today is Million. It's from, oh, you can hardly read this label now because it's had some spillages, but it's from Scent Perfect. It's one of my favourite fragrance companies, and it's called Million, and it is a very, very good fragrance, close to the well-known brand that's on the market. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to obviously melt our oils. We're going to add in our lye water, and we're going to work it up to saponification and then into trace, and then we're going to separate it into our 3 jugs for the various colours that we want. So we just wait for these to melt down. If you're watching live, let me know. Pop a hi in the box below. Let me know where you're coming in from. Are you local or international? Have you been making soap long? What is it about soap that you love? There's all these things that I'd love to know about all my groupies. So I'm going to clear down a little bit while that's melting down. Now obviously this is a cold processed soap, so it's going to take a minimum of 4 weeks to cure. And in order to do that, we need to mould it up. These are the moulds that I like to use. They are actually, it's written on the end here, the Really Useful Box Company. They do come with lids, so if you want to insulate your soap, that's great. Not something I do, don't find it necessary. It's also, I don't know if you can see, got little lines all the way up it, which make it perfect division lines. I like a chunky soap. I like my soap to be nice and chunky. So I slice on these lines, and I find that if this mould is full to the top, sliced on those lines, then I'm going to get 140 gram bars. And I think that's a nice size in the hand. So really useful box. These are a 1.5 litre box. And once we've put our, our kilo of butter and oil and our lye solution, we end up with about 1200 grams. So it just sits shy of the top, but that works perfectly well for me. Now, if you are a hot soap worker or a hot process soap maker, then there is no reason why you can't use this recipe for that also. I do sometimes use this recipe to do hot process. I have a number of clients who are not the best organised, so when they want their soap they need it almost like yesterday, so they don't have the 4 weeks to wait. So then I use hot process method so that I can push it through quicker for them. The recipe that you've got here allows you a 5% super fat, which is brilliant. Adds a little bit extra to the skin. One of the reasons I like to use beer in my soap is because it's full of vitamin B5. The vitamin B5 comes from the hops, and that is a great food for skin and for hair. We use beer as one of the base elements for our shampoos also. Right, we're getting there slowly. It's the coconut oil that's holding us up here. So we'll just give that a little minute. Beautiful, there we go. So that's now all completely liquid. Turn our ring off, push him back and bring our lye solution, which is now clear again, back to the table. So just doing a quick temperature check. So that's lovely. I don't know if you can see, let's try and hold that for you there. So our lye water is at 59 and our oil is at 55. So that is perfect. That's exactly where we want it to be. So I'm going to add my lye water down the back of the spoon or the spatula so we don't get any splashes. Get rid of that out of the way. Give it a little stir. Now I'm afraid it's the dreaded noise. So we've untangled all my wires. Look at this. Right, so we've got our blender in, giving it a little stir. Pardon the noise. The lovely beer smell still emanating from this. It won't be overly present once we've finished. Sorry, once we've finished, because obviously by then we'll have our fragrance in. But a certain element will underlie. Now, the million that I'm using, although it's a fragrance oil, as I say, and it's not an essential oil, it is technically governed a little bit more to men. It's more the manly of the millions than the female one. But then I think, bearing in mind we're making a beer soap, that works very well indeed. So I'm going to pull off a small amount of soap that we're going to put the charcoal in, because what we don't want to do is we don't want to put titanium dioxide in that, because we want it to be as black as black. We don't want to lighten it to a nasty grey. So we'll give him a mix, we'll tip him in, we'll find our blender top. Again, you can see almost instantly that has gone beautiful black. Okay, so we need to weigh out our oil, fragrance oil that is, obviously now. So I'm using a kilo, so I'm going to use 20 grams of fragrance oil. Overshot. £20 grams, lovely. So I'm going to put him straight in there, all in the black, okay? I'm not worrying about fragrancing the piece that we pulled off, because it's such a small amount, it doesn't really see much point. Now I've got this soap at a very, very thin trace, because I want to be able to work it, okay? So I now obviously need to split the soap that we pulled off, because we want some to be white and a very small part to be gold. So I'm only putting a little tiny bit in for the gold and the rest is for the white. Okay, so I'm going to put my titanium dioxide in this one. Like that. And I'm going to give that a good old stir so that we get that much nicer, lighter, creamier colour than the brown that we had just now. So that's good. Happy with that. I don't know if you can see that there. It's a nice light colour in there. That's perfect. And then in the smaller amount that we had left over, I'm going to put my radiant gold. So my radiant gold goes in there, like that. Now if you wanted to, you could obviously have put some titanium dioxide in here and made it a little bit lighter first. I didn't necessarily feel the need to do that. I just wanted this beautiful golden colour. You see that? Beautiful golden colour. Okay, so that stir up again. Now if you find it difficult to pour from a saucepan, you can obviously put it into a jug, but if I'm perfectly honest with you, washing up is something I hate, so I use less equipment if I can. So I've done a nice thick layer of black, give it a little shake, and now I'm going to take my white, I'm going to hold it fairly high because I want it to go deep, and I'm going to run it just down this one edge like that. Okay, and then I'm going to take my gold and I'm going to try and run it just down the middle so that we're keeping the very far end plain black, and then I'm coming over to the edge back to the middle and again keeping a little bit on top. I'm going to take one of my stirrers and I'm going to go in and backwards and forwards, 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 back and forwards, back and forwards, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay, so we've got a nice squiggly pattern all down one side. I'm now going to pour the rest of my black into the black side. Hope that makes sense. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So I'm pouring the rest of the black just in to the black side like that. Okay, I'm going to turn it round so it's easier to pour. Make sure you get all that scrummy goodness out. You don't want to waste any of it. Like that. I made a bit of a mess around the outside there, as you can no doubt see. Take my stick out of my black charcoal and going from the other side, I just want to drag it just once through so that I'm getting that gold and that cream coming through just a little way to meet. Can you see that? And now we're going to sprinkle the last of the gold just in a nice little squiggly pattern all the way. The idea being that when we cut this tomorrow, we will have gold and white in the centre on that side, but on the centre of this side it will be pure black. However, we've got the cream and the white on the top. So when I get my stirrer and I mix this in a minute, I'm only going to put my stirrer in a few millimetres so that it's just the centre, so that when we get a finished slice, one side's got pattern in the middle and one side has got it on the top. So we just turn him round, turn him round, turn him round, turn him round, turn him round. You see, I'm just pulling a little bit of the black up. You see? So in effect, what we've got is two different slices of soap working together. So I'll come back later, cut this up for you so you can see it sliced. Hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Take care. I'll see you all soon.